Let's just keep our eye on this because it may flunk out at some point. Couple of things I really need to tell you. This is a schedule as best I can fit it in the screen. We are at the 19th of March. And I'll be talking about libraries today, and I'm not going to show you the slides, but I'll put them up on the web. Tomorrow we'll have a TUT. And I shall give another little introduction to the project, to the rest of the project, and put all the rest of the project specs on the web for tomorrow's TUT. But if you're not a Tuesday TUT kind of person, don't come to the TUT. There's a video, it'll be on YouTube, I promise. Just like last time, but now the other half of the class gets to see it fresh, as we call it in the industry. Okay. Then, Wednesday, we have a public holiday, foreigners. Human Rights Day. To complement Human Wrongs Day, which comes later in the year. Or in Human Rights, or Human Rights Night, as we like to call all these things. Okay, right, so we won't have class on Wednesday. Please stay away. I won't be here. No one else will be here. And on Friday, we're doing something really special in that there's going to be a test.
That doesn't sound so special.
But we are not going to write it. The engineers are writing it, and we therefore have to move to a different venue. Okay? What did you think I was saying? Hang on, let me just get my bearings. So Friday we'll be in the chemical engineering building. Not in no, don't go to chemical engineering. Go to chemistry building. Who has chemistry? One person. 2, 3 people. Okay, right. Well, chemistry. It's over there. You got it? Good. Okay. Right. Find out. I'm not going to tell you. I'll remind you in the TUT tomorrow, Thursday, but not on Friday because I'll be there. In fact, I don't know the venue, so I'll try to find out. They just said chemistry building. Okay, fine. Right. Today is today. Tomorrow we have a TUT plus a little project speech. Wednesday, no class. Thursday, the next TUT. Friday, we'll be in chemistry. Next Tuesday, the other group will have that TUT. Okay? But because of the time lapse here, there's no TUT on the 29th. That's only fair because in the very first week, the Tuesday group had no TUT. And the Thursday group did have one. So everything is fair and balanced. Don't get upset. Don't write to the MP or what have you. We won't have class next Friday because it's Good Friday. In South Africa, we have those holidays. For you don't know, in the US, it's very secular, so they don't have religious holidays apart from Christmas. What? I'm still on Friday, Justin. Don't get excited. No class because we're having an exercise session. Physical exercises. Yes. Okay. So Good Friday. It's a public holiday. No class next Friday. I was going to teach on Monday and then leave Wednesday for revision, which means project work, really. But instead, I have a very important meeting to attend on Monday, and it clashes with this class. So I thought, what the hell, let's just skip Monday as well. So next week, no classes except for the Tuesday TUT group. Revision means revision privately at home in your bed. No, I won't be there. Yes.
How much of the project do we need to be done by the winter?
All we'll explain tomorrow, but basically only the functional parts. I mean, the gameplay, the rules, not necessarily the beautiful interface or the networking. But you must be able to do what it says at the moment.
So we need test mode.
You need to be able to test, I need to be able to test your program. Okay, but I'll explain more tomorrow. One last thing, just a little reminder. No class next week, except on Tuesday for the TUT. And don't do that. And no class on Wednesday this week. And Friday we're in the chemistry building. The chemistry building.
Is it okay if we just don't come Friday?
No, Friday will be particularly important.
Will it rain or you just say that?
It'll be critical, crucial for passing the course. Okay. Entirely unrelated admin. You've now written the first test. How did it go? Excellent. I'll be looking at the marks. This is called an early assessment test. We didn't used to have tests this early, but they now want early tests, early-ish tests. So based on that, I'll be identifying the weakest students. Now, you may just have been ill or not having a good day, and you didn't do as well as you could have, but I'll still maybe put you in a little group, and we have received money for mentors, so we'll start doing the mentor groups. It's very late in the day, but there's still the whole of the semester to come.
So is this a group that you're choosing based on marks?
Yes, exactly. Because the test is how we assess how you're doing. And if you do poorly in the test, then we say, you need help, you need some kind of intervention. That's really the only way we can help people, to judge when to help people. So usually it's 10 people per group, and you meet once a week with a mentor who asks you questions and explains stuff to you. This hole is getting bigger. Flakes are coming off it. I'm going to fall through it. But I still need to sort that out. I haven't actually recruited the mentors. That needs to happen this week. Oakley dokley. What we really need to talk about is classes and libraries. So until now, we went very slowly. If you could already program, you found the first 2 weeks of this course excruciating. But we're speeding up all the time. So it's important that if you feel you're still weak, you try to catch up as quickly as possible, because now we're moving on to the next dynamic chapter in our lives, which is that, let's say we have to implement a game for some kind of project. Let's say it's tic-tac-toe. But I have to implement two interfaces, a textual interface and a graphical interface. And both of those are going to use the same rules and the same functionality, basically. It's just that the interfaces are different. So I do not want to duplicate the common code, the code that's shared between the GUI version, the graphical version, and the textual version. That shouldn't be duplicated. Because if I discover a mistake in one duplicate, I maybe forget to fix it in the other, and then I have two versions that are out of sync. It's not the same code. Like these mistakes, these discrepancies heap up, and eventually the code becomes unmanageable, and I have to throw one or the other away. So I want to, as much as I can, factor out the common code. Now, where do I put the common code? I can either write one humongous program called tic-tac-toe that will contain all of the code for all the versions, or I can have a graphical version and a textual version that are two separate programs, but they use the same library of common code that I have made myself. We are already doing this. You've been doing this since the start. When you said math.sign, you are using the math library, which is common code used by many people all over the world in this class. And you don't want to rewrite the definition of, let's say, square root, because we know the definition of square root. We don't want to rewrite that and put that in every single program we write. So it's much nicer to factor it out, put it in a library like math, so that we can use it all the time. So that's what we're supposed to be learning about today. When I use a library, I am the client. So I'm the client of all the libraries I use. I'm the client of math. We've been using a library, which we haven't really been calling it that, drawing attention to it, but we've been using a library called system. String is a library. There are many libraries in Java, and we've been using loads of them without really even knowing it. We've been the client of many libraries. If you want to use a library, you need to know what can it do, and we call that the API, Application Programmer Interface. That's really a contract between you and the library. The library promises to do certain things. And when you start making a library, that's usually where you start. So that's where we'll start today. I'm going to write my tic-tac-toe game now. I'm going to write tic-tac-toe.java. Let's see if we can write the whole game in half an hour. Thank you. Okay, public, can't even type. Public class, tic-tac-toe. Yeah, my computer is acting really slowly. Okay, seems to be going better. Public static void main string args. It's okay, it'll come. In the old days, you had to wait hours to see these things appear on screen. We'll be fine. Okay. While it's waiting, let's just simplify a few things. Instead of writing the whole game, I'm just going to write part of the functionality. I don't know why it's slow and why it's losing keystrokes. Okay, but it'll be fine. Instead of writing the whole of the game, I'll just write a little part of it. So basically, I want to initialize the board. Okay, then I want to display the board. Whoops. And then I want to make a move and display the board again. So make move and display the board again. Okay, so that's the only functionality I want. Now, I can write, as I've done in the past, I can flesh out my program by writing little functions that do that. We've seen that, that's easy peasy, and we can do that. But once again, I'm now writing, let's say, the textual version. So that means I have to duplicate this code for initializing the board, displaying the board, making a move in the graphical version, which I'll write later at home. I don't want to make that duplication. I want to put that common code in one place. So I'm going to move initialize the board to a library. I'm going to create a library. If I can, called board.java. Don't be confused, don't be upset. Okay. Public class board. So when I make a library, I'm simply writing another Java class. This time I'm calling it board. And it'll contain functions. And those functions I can call from outside. So one function that it needs is this init board. I'll just move it here. And on this side, I can say board.initBoard. And I don't need to say anything special like import. If you know about that, just forget about that. So I've got my little library. At the moment, it does nothing, but it's working. It's got one routine called initBoard. It's a void function that I can call from outside, and here I'm calling it in my tic-tac-toe game. Okay, now displaying the board is special to It's different in the textual version and the graphical version. So displaying the board is something I'll do locally. So I'll probably write this. Man, this is getting irritating. It's missing so many keystrokes. I wonder if my computer is broken or just busy. Okay, or insane. Or am I insane? Okay. I think I'll just try to close as much as I can. So this will close. Let's close that. Just to free up more memory. Okay, right. There we go. So display board is a local function because it knows how to display the board either graphically or textually. That will be local. And I can call it down here. Oops. Down here. Wrong window. Display board. Okay. Make a move is something that happens to the board. It's an operation that I'm performing on the board. So that will be in my board library. Public, static. And I'm going to make it return a Boolean that tells if the move was made, was legal and it was made, or if it was illegal and not made. So make move. And what do I need to tell it? Well, on the tic-tac-toe board, I'll just number the squares 0, 1, 2, the rows, and 0, 1, 2 for the columns. And then I also have to tell if it's a cross or a circle. What it's called? Naught. Noughts and crosses. A naught or a cross. So I need to add here the row. You can't see me doing that. The column. Okay, and the mark. I know it's very boring, but I too find it boring, but what can we do? Okay, fine. And in a real game, I would have displayed the board to the user and asked what move do you want to make, and I've written the move and all that. But just for today, all I'm going to do is board.makeMove 0, 0, 1. And now it sends back a Boolean, but for now I'm just going to ignore it. So that Boolean value that make move will send back, I'm just going to drop it. So I could have said something like if not make board. Well, let's do that. System.out.println. And display board I've already done. Okay, fine. Everybody happy? And for now, I know it's not perfect, but it's a start. Will this compile? Mat 6? I know your name. I'll use it. I'm using it. Are you sure? How much money will you pay me if it makes a mistake? If the compiler says there's an error. Okay, who's willing to pay money if it doesn't compile? So who thinks it will compile? Not even Mat 6, even though he said he thinks only Mat 6. Who thinks there's a mistake? Who's willing to pay me money?
What do we possibly get out of this? Is it a Reddit situation where if
Bragging rights. If you guess and you're correct, you don't have to pay money. So that's like scoring money. You're actually making money in the process. you're not losing $500 or rand. It's like getting 500 rand. Oh, it's a big money-making scheme. Yes. Don't I need to report Microsoft? What? Import. No. I mentioned that. We don't have to import anything. I know that with one time we had to say import Java util scanner. And that's because libraries like math and string and system, the ones we've been using, they're part of the Java language, well, not language, but they're part of the environment that they're automatically imported in behind the scenes. But scanner, which is what we've been using to read input from the keyboard, is not automatically imported. So we had to explicitly say import space java.util.scanner semicolon. In this case, as long as board is in the same directory as tic-tac-toe, we won't have to import it. Java will see it, and it'll just import it automatically. Okay? Right, everybody thinks it will compile, including Math6, but unfortunately, you can't always trust everybody, can you? There is a big mistake, just one line, but it's going to say something about returning a Boolean. Aha, line 7 of board.java is missing a return statement. I promised it would return a Boolean, Matt. It didn't. So I'm just going to say true for now. Okay. Now it compiles fine, and if I run it, it'll do nothing. Okay, now we have to fill in our little library. So, what do you think of the following? I'm going to declare the board here. This is going to be an integer two-dimensional array. And I know how big it's going to be, so I'll just do that. And then I'm going to fill it up with 0 to mean empty space. Okay. This is easy peasy stuff. I know you can do this after the test. You've proven it to me. You've proven yourselves. Those are just two nested for loops that go, R goes over all the rows, and for each row, C goes over all the columns, and it puts a 0 in space RC. Okay? And we can make the move, we can write the make move routine now, but I'll rather write display board. So display board is, it's trivial. It's just going to look at the board, look at all the spaces, and print a character based on that, on the contents. So display board is going to say for int R0, one will be a cross and a 2 will be a big O. And then I'm done with this whole row, and I go system.out.println. Okay. Let's just go through this code. R goes from 0 to up to 3, but not including 3. So I'm going through all the rows. C goes from the first column to the last. If RC on the board is a 0 value, remember board is an int array, so it'll have int values. If it's a 0, we print a dot. If it's a 1, we print an X, and else, oh dear. 2X. Never mind. Luckily, I was reading my code and I saw that mistake. Else, if the board RC is 2, then we print a big O. And then we do that for all 3 columns. We do a print line, and then we go back and we do the next row. Okay, who is happy? Who is unhappy? Happy? No one is happy. A few people are happy. Good. I'm glad for you. Unhappy? We know at least 1. 2. Who doesn't know if they have to be happy or not? What are the rest of you? Either you can spot a mistake, or you can't. Or a third option may be that you suspect that Jaco is deliberately trying to fool you. I never fool you. How dare you? How dare you? Okay. I think, I'm not trying to fool you, but I'm trying to teach you that we have to think about our program. I've been using board. What is the scope of board, though? Well, this is where I declared board. It's an int array, and it belongs to this scope. And when that scope is finished, that int array is no longer available. I can no longer touch it. I can definitely not touch it inside this other library, other program. But even if display board lived inside the board library, so I'm going to move display board from here, it's gone, to here. Now display board and init board are in the same library, but display board still can't see init board's board, because the scope of init board's board variable, its 2-dimensional array, is only the init board function. When the init board function finishes, that board array disappears. We can't access it. We can no longer access it inside display board. So what are we going to do? We are going to learn about something evil. Something wicked this way comes. Where is that from? You always, only when people ask you that, especially in a kind of like pedant tone, you always say either Shakespeare or the Bible. Yes, which one? Yes, probably. By the pricking of my thumb, something evil this way comes. The evil we have to face today is something called a global variable. It's like a global zombie plague, but worse. We want to avoid it. We do not want global variables. We want to stay away from global variables because they cause something called side effects. Well, they cause functions to have side effects. Just like the zombie plague, much like the zombie plague. Okay, right, let's go for it. I'll put display board, well, keep it here for now, but I'm going to take it away soon, so don't get attached to it. Board, at the moment, is a local variable. It's local to its scope. It's local to the function init board. And only init board can see it. And it only lives while init board is executing. And when it stops executing, it disappears. But I can make board scope bigger. I can make it much bigger. I can move it up here. And now, because it's at this level, I'm going to attach public static to it, which for now, it's just a magic word. But if it's at the top level, the first thing in the class needs to be public static. Now, board is declared for the whole class. Its scope is from that brace to the closing brace of the board class, the board library. All the functions inside board can see, shouldn't have called it board. Oh, damn it. Okay, right. All the functions inside big board can see small board. Small board is now a global variable. Why it's bad is that I'm a little function. I set a value to small board. I believe that the value is 5 because that's the value I just set to small board. But someone else comes along and they change it. So I can no longer rely on the fact that I've just made small board 5, given it the value 5. Well, treating it like an integer variable, of course it's an array, but the same idea holds. Multiple people now have access to small board and they can change the contents. So now when we program, we have to be extra careful about any assumptions we make. In this little program, that's not too important. But in real big programs, it's one of the most important things. Global variables are open to everybody. And as function, even if it's innocent, it may have a side effect. A side effect means it modifies a global variable, especially when it's non-intuitive. Okay, fine. So display board can now see board, and it'll actually work perfectly fine as long as I tell my program down here that display board is now inside board. Come on, editor, how hard can this be? I don't know what's going on. Okay, let's just see if it compiles. Remember, we initialize the board, all empty. We display it, so we expect to see lots of dots. Then we make a move, which at the moment does nothing. And then we display it again. So we expect to see 2 copies of board, 3x3 boards, when we run the program. Okay, there we go. So 3x3 and then 3x3 again. I know you don't believe me, so I'll separate these. No, not a good job. There we go. So that's the top 3 and then the bottom 3. Okay, I'm going to finish quick. But I need to do one thing that is a little complicated that will make my program much better. I've actually moved a few steps back by putting display board inside library board, because I said explicitly I want the textual and the graphical to be separate programs, running separate programs, and board itself shouldn't know which one of the 2 programs is using it. So it shouldn't know that display board should write the textual. So I'm going to put display board back. I'll just trust that this thing is not going to hurt me. Okay. Once again, we have an issue. Display board can't see board because board is now a global variable, but it's still inside the library board at the top, and it only lives inside that library. We can't see it from the outside. A hacky way of fixing it is to say, well, I'll just talk about board.board. So big board is the class, dot, and little board is the variable I want to access. So I've accessed all the global variables of board. But a much better way of doing it is to write a function that'll give me back the contents of board. Because maybe tomorrow I want to change the way that things are represented on a board. Maybe I want to add an additional marker, and then this display board won't know what's going on. So it's better to have a function inside board that will read the board and interpret it back to this function display. So in fact, I'm going to write a little function called get marker r, c board.get marker r, c. Don't get upset. Hang on. That didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. Okay. Okay, this system is crazy. I'm going to stop it now. But the bottom line is, okay, I won't finish. It was my editor. My tools let me down. We could have finished it in the class. Libraries are really important. We won't be talking about them on Wednesday because Wednesday is Human Rights Day. There won't be any class. We will talk a lot more about them on Friday. And the TUT, which I've closed down, will also talk about these functions and a little bit about libraries. So if you haven't read the prescribed chapters, please catch up. And then I'll see you, some of you again tomorrow, and the rest on Friday in the chemistry building. Okay. Thanks, guys.